Hey everyone, thanks for joining us for another episode. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Sogcast. I'm Patrick.
I'm Matt.
I'm Garrett.
And I'm Owen.
We've got a few more spring training episodes to give you before the regular season starts. Big news today. USA just won in the WBC. They beat Venezuela, which means the last remaining Mariner in the World Baseball Classic is now coming back to join the team, with Suarez being eliminated for Venezuela. Feel bad for him, but props to the USA. Moving on.
USA. USA.
Go America. Moving on to the semifinals to play Cuba.
Yeah, I've seen Mike Trout's been hot. It's been exciting to watch Mike Trout do well for USA instead of the Angels against the Mariners, because that hurts a little bit. You love watching one of the best baseball players do it for us and not for them.
Yo, 100%. Mike Trout has been on absolute fire. I saw the one game USA played the other day. They won 3-2, and Mike Trout scored all 3 runs. He's been hitting home runs. He led off today with an RBI double in the first inning. It was actually more of a single and scored on air, but I mean, still, he put the ball in play. He made it happen. So it's really nice. I mean, honestly, I love Mike Trout. I love him so much. I know we're supposed to hate him because he hurts the Mariners so bad, but I am a huge Mike Trout fan, and I love to see him performing well.
It's great to see him in those situations where he's excited and he's surrounded by star players. You know, he's not just surrounded by a whole bunch of guys.
Bums.
Yeah. So when you're surrounded by star players, he's excited. Everyone's excited. Everyone's excited for Mike Trout to be in a big situation and do that. He even stole a base. He still got wheels.
Oh, yeah. And he stole that base in plenty of time. Like, he's 100% healthy, which is always good. He's kind of had the injury bug throughout the last couple years, unfortunately. And it sucks because having Mike Trout in is good for the game of baseball.
It's also really cool to see the WBC team. Everybody is just so dangerous. That whole lineup is scary. And, it's so different when, the regular season plays out and we have, Evan White coming up to bat who's hitting, 116.
He's hitting 83 in spring training right now, which is rough.
It's just cool to see and watch games where it's like, oh man, I've heard of him, but I've never really seen him play because he's over in the NL. And then Trey Turner hit a grand slam today. And it's just everybody on that lineup has the potential to just change the game. It's just really fun to watch.
And that's what's cool about the WBC is literally every game is like an all-star game. Mm-hmm. It is, the cream of the crop. And it's awesome. It's so fun to see.
I really like once we get out of pool play, it's just kind of like one and done, like Puerto Rico beat Dominican and they were just out, there's no chance. There's no series. It's just kind of like, oh, too bad. You're going home. We're moving on. Pool play is fun because you get to see the variety of players from the international pool. But then, once you get to the playoffs, the tournament part, it's just you're in or you're out.
Yeah, it's cutthroat. It's weird because every other matchup is always a series in the MLB. So it's weird that it's just if you get your ass beat, you're going home. That's just so much of a difference than what I'm used to.
And there's no wiggle room for error. Either you perform and you're at your best that day, or you're going home, and going back to spring training. But then again, a lot of these South American teams and stuff, not everyone on their roster is an MLB player. So they have some guys that, this is the biggest games of their lives. And you can definitely tell more so with the South American teams. And I guess Japan as well. These games mean everything to them. And also it's kind of nice to see that it's mattering more to the U.S. as well. They're starting to take it more seriously. And having Mike Trout and Mookie Betts really be the forefront, the spokesperson for the WBC for Team USA, it's really growing the game. And I expect they do it every 4 years, like a World Cup, that 4 years from now, it's going to be insane. Every lineup is going to be top of the top, even more so than it is now.
Yeah, the first WBC was in 2006. You know, like the WBC is still a pretty new thing. I think it's finally gaining the momentum that it deserves. More players want to be there. Like there's quotes from Mike Trout, who we keep talking about because, I mean, he's the best. But
Oh, yeah.
he was disappointed he wasn't there before. And then there wasn't one this last time. And now he's there, like, trying to be part of that and loves being part of that. It's more exciting than Olympic baseball. Like, the Olympics is a joke. You know, it's everyone's proud to go do that, but the WBC is something that more people can get behind. You know, it's not happening during the Summer Olympics when all these other events are happening. It's not a big deal.
And then also for Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic, and Japan, something they had like 48% of households in those countries were watching the WBC game. Half of their total population was tuned in to watch baseball, and that's so cool. And honestly, I wish it blew up more in America, and hopefully it will, especially with another dominant run that Team USA is putting on right now. It's really cool to like see the game grow like that. And to a lot of these other countries, baseball is way bigger to them than it is to us or USA as a whole. So it's growing. It's really, really cool to see.
It's also cool to see, like, you know, Japan and Korea, they take their baseball very seriously, but like Europe and Canada, these are just dudes. Like there's a guy on Czechoslovakia or whatever it is. He struck out Shohei with like a 75-mile-an-hour fastball or some shit. It's just, he's like an electrician by day. It's just really cool.
He was an electrician. Yeah, that was his job.
He's like 5'6", and Shohei is just this big freak, and he struck him out. He made him look real silly, and it's just really cool to see like all these different people where they really love baseball enough to play for their national team, and you know where they live, they can't make a living out of it. So it's cool to see that on the world stage, and maybe it'll like propagate other MLBs across the globe.
And another big news, we briefly touched on it. Now with Venezuela getting eliminated today by United States, all of the Mariners are now back in spring training. Suarez was the last member of the Mariners in the WBC. So now he'll be heading back to get reps with the team. So now the team is in full. Their roster is set. They're ready to go.
And they're all back healthy, unlike Edwin Diaz, who had a freak injury in the celebration of Puerto Rico beating the Dominican Republic.
He got Kendrys Morales.
Yeah, and that's super unfortunate. You know, that's kind of a freak accident. He came in to close the game, right? Like, he did his thing. They get crazy. Like, he had a patellar tendon injury. Yep. Like, that's the top tendon above your like kneecap kind of. He's out for the whole year.
He's not going to pitch at all for the Mets.
So luckily, I saw a quote even Julio telling Service, "Yeah, I'm back in one piece. Don't worry."
And that's up for discussion too. Some people are concerned about players going to the WBC and getting injured. Also today in the Venezuela game, Jose Altuve got hit in his hand, and he has a possible broken thumb. He's going in for x-rays. So, you know, the thing is, for me personally, Edwin Diaz is a freak accident that happened during a celebration that wouldn't happen during a spring training game because they're not going to be jumping around and celebrating in Arizona like that. It was different because it was a WBC game. But these players want to play in the WBC, and I know some people will look at these injuries and want to vote against the WBC, but stuff like getting hit in the hand like Altuve happened today and stuff, like that can happen in spring training. Like injuries happen, and it's unfortunate, but with how much these games mean to these players, and they're pretty outspoken, they wouldn't trade it for anything. They're glad to be there and happy to play.
Yeah, to your point, like there have been like 40 injuries in spring training already. I mean, Gavin Lux for the Dodgers, I think he's out for the season. I think Brandon Nimmo, I think he's on the Mets. I don't know. He's some guy, but he like wrecked his knee 2 or 3 days ago. I mean, it happens. Like you can't, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Like if people are saying like the WBC is like a meaningless game, it's like, well, then what is spring training? Like
spring
it's the
training
same
is
shit. It's even
meaningless.
worse. Like I don't know. The injuries suck for sure, but it's like the calling for like, I don't know, boycotting the WBC, whatever it may be, is just, I think, stupid.
Yeah, there's definitely a big push for by fans and maybe even owners to tell their players not to go, right, and risk that injury. And I think it was a good move for us, not to send Luis Castillo. I don't know whose decision it is, but I know that there are stipulations in his contract about his elbow, and if he has to get surgery, like there's contract things that will keep players out of the WBC based on their health and their, stamina they don't want to get Tommy John sooner, basically, is the idea, because he's working towards Tommy John. Let's put it that way. And he doesn't want to get it sooner by throwing in the WBC in games where, he doesn't have to go 100. He might as well kind of take it easy and make it worthwhile for the team that just signed him up for 5 years. And I understand that part. We don't want anyone getting soggy, right? We don't need any more soggy Drew Smileys after the WBC, and I don't want Castillo to be in that boat. But what I'm saying is, like, every player's going to have their risk reward, right? Everyone's going to go for their own reasons, whether they grew up in Puerto Rico and they want to represent their family and all their coaches in their home country and make them all proud. You know what I mean? The Dominican, Puerto Rico, Venezuela, all these places love baseball so much that, like, it means almost more to them to go play with their family, basically, and, like, represent on the main stage internationally every once in a while. And, everyone's in a different boat when you get there, health-wise and contract-wise, age-wise. So when you get your opportunity, you go. And I think it's just going to keep growing. More players will go. I don't think this whole, like, you're going to get injured idea is going to overtake the WBC. I think it's going to keep growing in popularity with players.
Fun fact, the history of our name of the Sogcast is because of Drew Smiley, who got the soggy arm pitching in the WBC. When we got him, he pitched in the World Baseball Classic, got that soggy arm, and then never actually pitched for the Mariners, which is kind of funny. And the history of our name. Speaking of sogginess, JP Crawford, though, is playing spring training, not in the WBC. He is literally dealing with a soggy arm right now, unfortunately. They still have his bat in the lineup. I think he's still hitting. They're working on his arm a little bit. I think it's a soggy shoulder. But, also, it's this time of spring training. Like, people are going to get sore, and I think the Mariners are taking the right precautions in easing up on him. I don't think there's necessarily an injury diagnosis, like he's going to necessarily miss time. I think they're trying to be preemptive on it. But JP is dealing with a little bit of injuries right now, which sucks. He's our starting opening day shortstop, and hopefully he can be as healthy as can be.
JP's backup is supposedly Dylan Moore, who's going through core-related issues right now.
Yeah,
Oblique
strains. A lot of people are asking the question, what are we going to do at shortstop to start the season if JP isn't healthy and Dylan Moore is out for a few weeks? And, there's a lot of talk about Isiah Kiner-Falefa going around right now.
No,
I agree wholeheartedly. I was pulling up IKF's stats earlier today, and
he's a bum.
Do we need another defensive flex player with a weak bat?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like 100%. And also, we still have Haggerty. Haggerty and Dylan Moore are both utility guys. That's why we have this kind of depth. I don't think, not necessarily nothing to worry about because you want JP healthy and in the lineup, but this is the reason why we have these guys. This is why we have Dylan Moore and Sam Haggerty that can play all over. So if we have Haggerty at short, it's not the most ideal thing, but Haggerty has played well, and he could be on a starting roster for another team. So to have him, I don't think it's anything to be too concerned about. Like, yeah, it sucks. It's not ideal, but this is why we have two utility guys on our team. I think we're sitting pretty.
Yeah, I think people are overreacting with the whole, you got to make a trade right now. kind of thing. You got to get more depth. It's like, what have we been doing? But I also think that the Mariners really don't want Sam Haggerty playing shortstop. But I mean, if that's the option, he's there for that option. So
Yeah, it seems like they don't want him to play shortstop, but if they have to, right? But
he could also play second base. He put Colton Wong at shortstop.
Yeah, just
that's true.
Colton Wong has played short before. He played a lot of short last year. His air numbers were a little high.
I actually looked at it. I think he only played shortstop one game last year.
Oh, really?
And I've been wrong about this, so I'll admit that. So, I think the whole Soggy designation is fine. Like you said, Patrick, there's no injury necessarily, like nothing designated. So we hope that doesn't turn into something based on tests they do, MRIs or whatever. But it seems like he's going to be okay. JP's just taking the time to rest. The last 3 years, he's been playing almost 95% of the games in each season. We know he's that guy. We know he might get like worn out towards the end of the season. But I think he'll be okay. This is a small thing. There's no like strained flexor tendon or some shit. Like, he's going to be fine. And he was in the lineup as a DH one day. I think it's something to do with his throwing arm, you know. And they will work on it, and they'll give him time off. And I think he'll start opening day still. Dylan Moore, he's going to be out another 2 to 4 weeks here, so he's going to need more time to like rehab, I think, because he didn't really get much of a spring training.
He didn't get any spring training.
Yeah, no, he was dealing with an off-season surgery and then came back, was doing some cage work, and that's where he pulled his oblique. And so, yeah, it could be anywhere from just a couple weeks, which would still have him miss opening day, to anywhere to like a month or so. So he would miss some time into the regular season, and they would have to do all major league teams also, it's not as widely known, but they do extended spring training in Arizona. So you have these on the cusp guys or like on the bubble or whatever, or guys rehabbing. They straight up do extended spring training way into the season. It's just not widely talked about because, again, it's not guys that would typically be on a major league roster more often than not. But he would definitely have to also spend some time in the extended spring training, rehabbing, also maybe a minor league stint with the Tacoma Rainiers to get some rehab time. So Dylan Moore is definitely, I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Dylan Moore till maybe like, I don't know, May, late April.
Yeah, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah. And it really sucks. It also always sucks to see a guy trying to come back from injury and then injure something else. But it's a lot of strain on the body. And hope, JP Crawford isn't that bad yet. They're really trying to be precautious of it. And I mean, worst comes to worst, we have Haggerty in the infield to start the season. Not ideal, but we can make do.
Yeah, so I can kind of see where some fans will get a little bit panicked, where it's like, oh no, what's up with JP? Dylan Moore won't be there to back him up. Like, we have to, what's going to happen? We need someone, like, scrambling, you know what I mean? We don't need to be scrambling here.
They're already panicked.
There's nothing to worry about. We have the depth. We have an offense put together. We have great pitching and good defense, regardless if JP's on the field or not. Obviously, it makes a huge difference. Mm-hmm. But, yeah, if we have to put Haggerty at shortstop, like, is that the worst thing?
Better than
Absolutely
IKF,
not,
bro.
Man.
Oh, yeah, I would take Haggerty over IKF.
And he's a switch hitter, too. Like, and we have enough depth that we don't need to trade for another slappy depth piece. So, I think JP's going to be fine. Hopefully the Soggy designation doesn't turn into something worse.
That is also a legitimate concern because that is what happened with Drew Smiley, which started this whole thing, is he came in from the WBC, said his arm felt a little soggy, and then Tommy John surgery, never pitched for the Mariners. Let's hope this isn't the same thing with JP. Also, it's kind of weird. It was always Tommy John was strictly a pitcher injury. You didn't really see it with anyone else. But over the last couple years, you've seen more and more position players having to require to get Tommy John surgery. Corey Seager had to get Tommy John and miss an entire season.
Yeah, and
I think maybe some quarterbacks as well.
Oh yeah, quarterbacks for the elbow for sure. I think Trevor Story.
Yeah,
maybe?
he
Did
did
have
have
Tommy
it
John?
like
Story's
last
another
year
one.
or 2 years ago.
And it's just kind of weird. I don't know what it has to deal with, but it's now kind of affecting. Like, no one's safe from Tommy John. And that's definitely worst case scenario because that's minimum year. Easy. You're missing an entire year no matter what if you have to get Tommy John surgery. But again, I don't see the alarms being raised for JP. And, you know, they could also be keeping stuff behind closed doors. We don't really know the full story, but, you know, I don't, there's no need to panic quite yet. They're taking the right steps. He should be okay.
Was it Scott Service who said in an interview that has a soggy shoulder? Why would he say that? He knows what's going to happen when you throw the word sog around.
It's because Scott Service is a friend of the pod.
Oh, yeah. That's
We
right.
talk to him regularly.
Oh, you texted him? He didn't hit me up.
Oh, yeah, I've been talking to him.
He's
letting
trying
him
to
know.
put us in the limelight over here.
Appreciate you, Scotty.
Thanks, Scott.
A little side note: can I get a shout out for my boy JK in spring training right now?
Jared Kelenic.
Yeah.
Hitting like 500.
My man,
It's insane how well he's doing.
He's slapping.
his OPS is like 1,500 or whatever it is, like 1.5.
He's ready for
sick.
the season.
There was a point where like you guys were like, "Ooh, look at Jared Kelenic," and I was like, "Yeah, let's see it in a game that matters." And then like the next day, he went.
Understatement. We were like, Jared Kelly's doing great. And you were like, fuck spring training.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, cool,
Nothing
practice,
matters.
nice. Yeah.
Oh, he did good in batting practice? Wow.
Yeah.
So, like the next day or two, he hit a huge tank up top, straightaway center field, just so deep, dude. And I was like, okay, like that one gets me hard a little bit.
He's killing it. I'm really hopeful for this season. He's been in the shitter the last 2 years. I want him to be so good, so bad.
Yeah, not just him too. Like Jared Kelenic doing well is amazing, but like guys like Cal Raleigh coming up too with momentum, and then Ty France working his way into his spot. Like he's such a good hitter. He's one of the best hitters in our lineup. He's not a crazy power hitter, but he's a huge piece. And I think the way our team is building around each other is really nice.
Yeah, and Ty France had a massive home run the other day. I mean, it's clicking. It's all going well. And unfortunately, you do see times where players perform their asses off in spring training, and then the regular season starts and they go back to their norm. But momentum is never a bad thing. So the fact that they're getting hot now is great to see. I'm super excited for the start of the season. And again, we touched on this at the end of our last episode, where the Mariners notoriously start cold at the beginning of the season. They have some rough stretches. It takes them a while to like figure things out. But if the pieces are there and we're able, playing 500 ball or whatever for the first month, even slightly below 500, but we're seeing the improvements and like the skill is there, And again, Mariner fans love to panic. I think it's because they've been so bad for so long, excluding last year.
We're traumatized.
Yeah. So a lot of Mariner fans, they see shit hitting the fan at the beginning of the season, and it's just panic mode. Oh, what changes do we have to make? We don't have to make changes. Just let it play out. It's a long damn season. Major League Baseball is the longest season in all of professional sports. Let it play out. You don't need to panic in March.
Yeah, for real. It is scary. Some teams last year that were supposed to do well that didn't pan out. The Twins and the White Sox in the Central. Like,
there was high hopes for the Twins going into last
and that's
season,
like,
and they fizzled.
I'm hoping our team isn't in that boat, and we're more in the Blue Jays boat, right? Where we're more bona fide now. We're not. There's no question about where we're gonna end up in the standings. In my opinion, like we're gonna end up around 90 games or more. Like I don't think we're gonna end up with less than 90 wins. And like the White Sox had a really good team together, and they just didn't click. They had terrible injuries. Like, shit happens. They actually had a good team together.
They
but
also
it
had a
fell
terrible
apart.
manager.
Yeah. And shit just didn't go their way. They didn't have the right vibes. The Mariners picked up the second half vibes and rolled, you know. And the Mariners really do need to be in contention here in the first couple months with the way that those teams collapsed last year. It would be panic mode in like May if we're like under, you know what I mean? If we're gonna have like a 400 winning percentage, it'd be like pretty awful. It would feel bad. But that's, you know, we don't know what's gonna happen. We hope that all of our players stay healthy. It looks like our team is stronger than ever, in my opinion. For a starting lineup, last year, our starting lineup didn't look anywhere as strong as it does right now.
Oh, I agree 100%. And again, you know, bad managing. It's a good word, right? That's a correct word. That works.
Yeah, managing.
But it can really, really affect the team. And I will say the biggest kind of criticism against Scott Service was his bullpen management. And it has improved until he got into the playoffs last year. And honestly, that is just a problem with an inexperienced playoff manager. He tried to get too cute with the bullpen, and it cost the Mariners big. Putting in Robbie Ray against the Astros in the 9th inning with like 2 outs. Like, we needed one more out. He brings in Robbie Ray to pitch to
Jordan,
one of the scariest hitters in all of baseball, and it backfired. And that's an inexperienced manager trying to get too cute. And you know, bullpen mistakes are going to happen throughout the season. That's just baseball. But in the playoffs, there's no wiggle room. You can't make those kind of mistakes. And it worked out in one favor when we had George Kirby come and close a game, which was really cool and ice in the veins for the young kid. But
Was that also in the 18th inning of a game?
no. That
wasn't that day?
No.
Oh.
that was the Torrens win, wasn't it?
No. I mean, well, it depends what we're talking about. The Mariners lost in the 18th inning to the Astros. I was there for all 18.
Was it the second game of a doubleheader that went into
yeah.
extras when George Kirby came in?
No. It was playoff baseball, but it might have been against the Blue Jays
Okay.
when he did it. When
Yeah,
he did that.
You're right. I think it was a Blue Jays game.
Because it was in the playoffs, and he had done it once, yeah. So he had brought George Kirby in, ice in his veins, shut it down. And I guess he maybe got a little too full of himself and thought, oh, I can do cutesy shit like that again, and tried to bring in Robbie Ray, which was just a huge mistake, and it cost the Mariners dearly.
It was the highest pressure situation of the season. You know, they had runners on. We didn't know what to do. We had options for sure. I thought we should have thrown Swanson in there. We had a couple pitchers who could definitely have thrown to Jordan Alvarez, who's a super dangerous hitter. You know, Jordan was so ready too. Like, they're in their own house.
Oh, yeah.
They had runners on base. Robbie Ray threw one pitch. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
he
seriously.
was put in a bad situation. I don't blame Robbie at all. And
I blame him a little bit.
you know, Service did what he's trying new things. It's a playoff situation. He needs to learn from that going forward. You know what I mean?
Oh,
It's a
no,
first
100%. And I believe that he has. And yeah, that's why I chalk it up to an inexperienced manager in that type of situation.
Yeah.
Because clearly his bullpen management has improved during his tenure with the Mariners. It has gotten better. But last year in the playoffs, it was not good. And it cost the Mariners. It really, really did. And I think that's probably the biggest issue. Like, I like the way he sets the lineup. For a lot of times, I like the pinch hitters he uses throughout the season. It came down, and it's kind of funny, like, his bullpen management was his weakest strength throughout his time with the Mariners. And sure enough, when it came to playoff time, when it's a whole different beast, that's what came to bite us in the ass. So he's going to learn from it. He's going to grow, and I think it's a lot more better decisions from him throughout the season.
I like how you say it's his weakest strength. It's
yeah.
great.
His weakest strength.
It's like in a job interview. It's like, what would you say your greatest weakness? My greatest weakness, I work too hard. Honestly.
Care too much.
Yeah.
Speaking of working hard, I heard Robbie Ray's throwing gas in spring training again. Do you remember last spring training? He was fresh to our team, right? And there was articles about his sizzling fastballs and his loud grunts and stuff.
we heard the grunts, didn't see the sizzle.
Yeah, so I heard he's throwing the heat. I read a little article. It's like Robbie Ray's throwing gas. So we'll see if he can get it up 97, 98 like he used to. And maybe last year, he did have a huge workload with the Blue Jays when he went for his Cy Young award. He pitched a ton of innings, struck out a ton of batters, threw so many pitches, and maybe he had a lull last year. We know what his potential is, and if he's throwing gas, I think there's no downside. He's just going to be throwing it by guys instead of letting it fall off. But we'll see how his stamina is. If he can go deep in games and stay hot like that, I'm excited. I want to see him throw it by so many dudes.
I know. I would love to see the velocity up, and it's definitely something we've talked about on this pod before too. We've talked about, is he dealing with injuries or something like that? And yeah, I mean, it's a good point. Maybe it was just too much of a workload. And you look at Edwin Diaz when he left the Mariners for the Mets that first year. He didn't do so hot with the Mets, and it was because the year before he set the Mariners franchise record in saves. His workload was so high that even going into the next season, his arm just was tired. And that could be very well the same thing with Robbie Ray. So after a year of maybe a more manageable workload and not throwing as hard, that this year he's back and ready to gas it up again. So it'll be nice to see. I'd love to see Robbie Ray touch 97, 98. That would be really cool to see.
Dude's a horse. That's what he's built for. I want to see him do it.
Now, I have kind of an interesting topic that I've been thinking about for a while, and I was wondering your guys' thoughts on this. So, pitching has only gotten, the velocity and stuff has only gotten more and more high and sustained throughout the last year. Like, you watch baseball in the early 2000s, and relievers were coming in and throwing 92, 90, maybe some movement and stuff. Nowadays, most relievers on all major league rosters are touching 95 plus like it's nothing. I'm wondering if there will eventually be a time where pitchers reach a tipping point and we start moving to slower pitchers rather than faster. Because also, some science stuff that I'm not familiar with, Newton's second law or something, I don't know. But the faster pitchers throw, the further the ball goes. The furthest home run hit in the Kingdom history was Randy Johnson versus Mark McGwire on 102 mile per hour fastball. So the faster the pitch is coming in, the hitter has an equal chance to hit the ball further because of it. So what if we reach this tipping point where, what if we have pitchers, instead of throwing 97 heat, they're throwing 72? It's harder to hit the ball out. That's something I've been thinking about a lot. I wonder, because the thing is also, these major league hitters are major league hitters. They can turn on 104 mile per hour. Stuff that should be physically impossible, these hitters can do. And yeah, with the split seconds, 0.4 seconds a reaction time for a 96 mile per hour fastball. But these hitters are elite and they can do it. And I'm wondering if sometime in our lifetime we will see pitching change to moving slower.
It's kind of like some pitchers have an ephus.
Right.
Like the super slow curveball, like Greinke gets really weird and floaty and slows one down on you. You're talking about having an ephus pitcher. Where it's almost like you throw a changeup by changing pitchers, you know, like this dude throws 102 miles an hour and then the next dude you see throws 79 miles an hour with tons of crazy movement. And like, yeah, you can't get, even if you get the barrel on it, you're not using the inertia
Right.
Or like the energy of the pitch to send it. So you really have to make good contact. But the thing is, like, major league hitters will adjust to slow pitches. If you hang one, man, like, they know you're throwing slow. You'd have to be a guy that has an ephus. You have to have like a 99 in your back pocket to be able to throw like that. If you have a specialty pitcher that has crazy movement but it's slow, it could work, but like it's almost a novelty, just like an ephus pitch, and you use it the same way. I could see it happening more, absolutely, especially the way the ball changes and MLB has more control of the ball. And more of a, if they deaden the ball, absolutely, pitchers are going to be using strategies like that to get weak contact on the ground, or like weak contact in general, because if it's a dead ball and not a juiced ball, it won't be flying through the air quite as well. So in a dead ball situation, absolutely, I think that's a relevant point, and more pitchers could use that, or teams could use that to their advantage.
You see this happen when position players strike dudes out on some gnarly slow pitches.
It's like 47 miles per hour, and
yeah.
they're swinging out of their shoes because they want to crush it.
Yeah.
And when it's coming in that slow, it looks like a damn beach ball coming in, and they think they can crush it, but they're not. They're so used to seeing such quick pitches.
Even Shohei struck out on, you know, like the
that
same
check
kind of
dude,
thing
yeah.
where it's like, yo, yeah, it's too slow. You know, he's not used to it. It's like swinging out of your shoes, leaning forward it's so hard that, like, I tried. It's so
Shohei's
slow.
also pitching up to 102 miles per hour in the
my
WBC.
God.
It's insane.
Yeah, I saw that. 102 miles per hour pitch. It was one of the like fastest strikeout pitches by a starter in like since like 2018 or something like that.
I want to see Shohei pitch this year. He better pitch in Seattle this year. Last year it didn't line up for me. This year, it's got to happen.
Yeah, and like, but again, I just I really wonder if we'll ever see that kind of change. And yeah, as Matt said, these hitters will adjust. I mean, obviously they can take a 72 mile per hour pitch and hit it 450 feet, but I think there will be a transitionary period sometime in baseball where when now everyone's throwing 99 and hitters are turning on it more and more, you get some guy out there, his name's Larry, and he works at a tire dealership.
Larry Bernandez?
Yeah, and he throws 57 miles per hour, and these hitters, it will take some time to adjust. And even that adjustment period, it's the same thing with anything. I mean, hitters will adjust to anything over time, but it takes time.
Right. I'm thinking you're probably going to see something like that happen because there will be a tipping point. How fast can you throw all the time?
Right.
Until your
We've seen
arm,
it
like,
happen
blows out,
over
yeah.
over years and years. It gets faster and faster. They're not going to start pitching 110 miles per hour.
Right.
Just like what's impossible for people to do. So you're probably going to see some sort of strategy come around like that. They're going to throw a little bit slower, maybe a little more junk. But then, I mean, hitters are going to adapt, just like you're saying, and then you'll see it swing back again. And
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's a never-ending thing, but I'm sure we'll see once we hit that tipping point, people switching it up because you're expecting 99.
Right.
And so when the batter's expecting 99, last thing you want to do is throw him 99. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know, logistically, like, how are you going to find these dudes? People, like, all the bullpen pitchers and starters now, they're like, oh, damn, you can throw, like, 101. You've got, like, a fucking changeup that's, like, 93. Now it's just like, oh, you can throw a fastball 75? Yes, so can everybody else. You know, like, how do you find the good versus the bad in that scenario where, like, the goal is now not to be higher, it's just to be slower? How do you find the real, like, aces in that, like, that crop when it's just like now it's like 10,000 more people?
No, that's a very good point. I do think, though, that you would still have to find people that would have a lot of movement necessarily, like, you know. But then again, also, harder pitches can break more. So if you're throwing like a 72 mile per hour slider, there is definitely more chance that shit's going to hang and it's going to get banged.
That's loopy.
Yeah, right?
So, yeah, what I'm thinking is, like, you got to find the guys with the specialty pitch, you know, like Greinke with his eFist. Like you have to find a guy who has a specialty pitch that has 99 in his back pocket. So you are expecting that from that guy. You know, if you throw one pitcher in there that has 2 specialty pitches, but it's one big loopy curveball and a changeup, and he throws like an 88 mile an hour fastball just in case he needs to, you know, like his changeup better be nasty and his curveball better be nasty because he's not throwing a slider. It's not going to be hard enough to break enough.
Right.
Like, and like Owen's point, like, why would you not want to throw as hard as you can? It gives the batter so much less chance of hitting the ball. Like, your reaction time is a big part in hitting and pitching. Mm-hmm. And the less time you have to read that ball coming in, the better it is for the pitcher. And, you know, you want the hardest pitch that breaks the hardest, you know. But, you know, it is pitching. It is an art where you do have to flip and flop it like Flexen does, like even Verlander does with his fastball slider combo. And then he throws his curveball, and they're just fooled. You know, they go fishing all day on this curveball. Or they're expecting a fastball up top and get the slider, and they're just no luck, no dice. So it's the art of pitching is a very interesting thing. It's an amoebic thing that always changes. It always is an endless pendulum with the hitters and the pitchers. Who has the advantage? What are you used to? What are you expecting? Some guys own a specific guy or a team, and nobody else. You know, like, I don't know what it is. There's some weird voodoo magic stuff that happens.
Right. There's also like arm slotting, pitch placement. You can mess with the timing all you want and then add in these other aspects of it. And it's totally an art, like you're saying.
Yeah.
And you also see that with pitchers like Nestor Cortez on the Yankees.
Oh my God, that dude he's annoying as shit because he does that
I
that
like him.
rock motion. That's so fucking distracting.
Well, he'll also Cueto on
the
Giants will do those kind of, they'll sit and they'll rock, or they'll pause in their if coming from the stretch or even the windup, they can rock and do those kind of things. And I wonder, with the game always adapting and changing, if you'll see more stuff like that. So maybe not necessarily a pitcher throwing, 47 miles per hour, but if you have like more Nestor Cortez stuff, who is really kind of dove into the random arm slots. He's not always throwing from the same position, which 99.999 repeating pitchers do. They throw from the same slot. And that's what makes their pitches effective, because you can throw a curveball, a slider, a fastball, two-seam, whatever.
They all look the same coming out of his hand.
Yeah.
100%, exactly. Whereas Cortez has really made a name for himself with a throwing from random arm slots and doing weird shit with his windup.
That's the kind of thing that's more artistic, right? The flipping and flopping of the ball from different angles. That's wiffle ball shit. Like, I do that in wiffle ball, and it's great. Like, over the top curveball, down below curveball, like, they act differently. They have different speeds, different motion. You can have 3 different curveballs, and show a guy 3 different curveballs. Every at bat is a different one. So they're expecting one thing. That's craftiness. You have to have a really good feel for the ball. And like you're saying, a lot of pitchers, they just want that repetition. They want to grip it and rip it.
Right.
They want to have the muscle memory. They want to know exactly how they're going to tunnel that ball, their slider off of their fastball from the exact same arm angle. But guys like Nestor, even like I said, Flexen, our guy, he's our guy like that. He's not a dominance pitcher, but he's a crafty guy. He's artistic on the mound. When you watch his pitch mix, it's like you have 5 pitches. You don't know which one to expect. And I hope we see him do it more this year. I like pitchers like that a lot more than just heavy dominance pitchers, actually.
You like the whole rocking in the stands?
Not
I
necessarily
hate that shit. It bugs me so bad.
What is it? Luis Garcia, right? On the Astros?
Yeah.
Who had to now shorten his stuff because of the new pitch clock rules. And yeah, I mean that
just-
windup was atrocious.
I
I'll
just-
give you that.
Like Cortez and Cueto, it's just like a pitcher. I know it's like a cutthroat game of 1v1, pitcher to batter. It just seems like such an unfair like advantage just to be like, yeah, you don't know what's coming. You have like a 25% chance of guessing what pitch I'm gonna throw, and then you have like a fucking 25% chance to get a hit. But I'm gonna do this stupid rocking motion and fuck up your head.
Yeah.
I hate that shit. I can't stand it. It bugs me so bad. And Cueto is marginally better than Cortez because his shit is it's the same motion. I'm pretty sure
He does the shimmy.
he does the shimmy. Cortez is out here like throwing his leg over the rubber and shit and like leaning back. And
You
it
see his first half last year?
he did great.
Oh
didn't
my
he?
God, he was top of the Cy Young board through the All-Star break last year.
And then what happened?
Yeah, he fell off a little bit.
Because hitters adjust.
The Yankees fell off a little bit.
Well,
Let's
yeah,
just
They
put it
did.
that
Everyone
way.
the first half, people were like, "Oh my god, this is America's fucking team," and then Twitter got really silent after the break.
Also, I want to say I absolutely love when there's a certain topic that Owen decides to get hella animated about. Like he'll be chill and mild mannered, and then you bring up like rocking in the windup, and he's
God.
pissed. But you're like, what are you talking about? I hate
it.
that
None
shit.
of that.
I fucking hate it.
No, I didn't like the whole song and dance Luis
Garcia.
had. It's
Garcia's
too much,
was
man.
too bad.
It's
It
too
was-
much.
It was too much.
It's a
He's
lot.
doing a whole like song and dance and rocking the baby. It's like how many times are you gonna like go back and forth before you throw a pitch? Like 8 times. Like
You remember that dude on the
ridiculous.
Mariners a couple years ago who would do the toe tap thing and he kept
Carter
getting-
Caps.
That's it. That was his name.
Carter Caps.
That doesn't
Carter
sound
Caps
familiar.
with
The
the
Kenny
toe
Powers
taps.
looking
Patrick
dude.
remembers.
Yeah.
He had the Kenny Powers looking curly mullet thing, and he would, and he would do like toe taps and he'd get called balks all the time because people weren't sure what's like.
Yeah, that was also a weird stage in MLB where pitchers started toe tapping more, and then umpires really didn't know how to rule it. So it was like a game by game basis.
It was different all the time.
Yeah, and it was very weird. That was definitely a weird stretch in baseball, especially with pitchers, where you would see it. Also, Carter Caps has this famous, you can pull it up on YouTube. He did this weird thing where he would start his pitch with his back foot against the rubber and hop.
Oh my god, I
You
remember that.
shit? He would hop towards home
Like
plate.
6 inches, like almost off the
It was
rubber.
super weird, and we can even we'll watch it on our own. It just says like fans of the show. If you want to pull up Carter Capps' hopping pitch on YouTube, you can see it. It's super weird. He would literally leave the rubber and hop on his back foot towards home plate.
Almost
And that-
like a lunge when he was throwing, which
it was super weird. And there was like talks of like, is this legal? Is it not? And that was like a weird kind of gray area in baseball of like, what is allowed? Because pitchers had such a uniform way of pitching. And then, the toe tapping thing was very popular, which is weird. Clayton Kershaw on the Dodgers started doing the toe tap thing out of nowhere, which is weird because he's one of the best pitchers of all time, excluding the playoffs.
yeah, it's October like, bro.
Yeah. But no, it was a really weird thing. And but yeah, I think and they kind of cracked down on it more. And if I'm not mistaken, Logan Gilbert even went through a stretch where he was doing a weird kind of bring the foot all the way down and tap the ground and then throw. And now you don't see it as much anymore. I think that was more of a behind closed doors baseball thing of like, this isn't okay. They didn't like make a full announcement on it, but it was just like, you guys you can't be tapping. It's weird.
Yeah, now with the pitch clock rules and when they're going to have to start timing, I don't know. It's going to be different now. They're going to have to crack down on that kind of stuff. I don't know why it got popular in the first place. You know, I don't know why. It just became like a running thing where more and more guys will do it. And I understand, like, if I'm stancing up to pitch, if I, like, tap my toe a few times, it helps me, like, get my hips in position to fire, you know? Like, you kind of get locked and loaded before you go. You build tension in your core and your hips so that when you lift your leg, you're already kind of locked and loaded. So they kind of cheat, you know? They kind of inch their foot up in a way where they get their hips into the position they want. So they're kind of tapping their foot to get their hip in the right position so that it's like an OCD thing when you're repeating something like that or trying to do a skateboard trick or like juggle, like there's certain angles and like placement of your foot and like hips that you really want to build tension in your body. And that's what I think is the pitchers are really trying to find that spot where they're comfortable.
Yeah, that starting point to start the motion. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, and that's what I think it's really about. It's just hard to watch over and over again and figure out like, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? But it's fine. It doesn't bother me much as the whole like song and dance rocking the baby to pitch the damn ball every 48 seconds. Like,
Seriously.
It's easy to hate Cortez. He's on the fucking Yankees.
I like Cortez.
easy for you.
I
Easy
actually
for
kind
you.
of
I
like
like-
Cortez too.
Former
I like
Mariner,
him.
Nestor
I like
Cortez.
his personality. I don't like his pitching. I like he's just kind of like a goofy guy up there. I
Yeah,
appreciate that.
with his
but-
mustache and shit too. I love it.
Yeah.
His mustache is cool as hell.
Yeah, it's
Also,
awesome.
that is a funny thing. I remember texting Garrett when I found out. Did you guys know that Nestor Cortez was on the Mariners?
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
When?
Early on.
Well, yeah, like early on in his career, he was a bullpen pitcher for us, and his ERA was terrible. He was awful. He was so bad for the Mariners. So we let him go either like in free agency, we just let him walk or whatever, like not re-signed his like rookie deal. And then it turns out he found his stride on the Yankees. But yeah, I don't know, 2019, 2020?
I think before that.
Yeah, I think it was
was
way
thinking
before
like
that.
16,
Yeah.
17, maybe. 15,
Maybe like
16.
17. Maybe
Yeah.
17, 2017.
In that range.
But yeah, Nestor Cortez was on the Mariners. I remember when I found that out, it blew my mind. And I texted Garrett, and he's like, "Yeah, that's old shit. I knew that." And I was like,
fucking
"Oh,
loser."
I was like, "Damn, okay."
Yeah, dude.
I was so shocked when I found out, and Garrett he was like, "Yeah, telling me shit I already know."
Doesn't happen often.
No, it's not,
That's a
especially with
rare
the
one.
Mariners.
Yeah.
So that blew my mind when you already knew about it.
Well, I'll be damned, Patrick. You were right. Nestor Cortez was on the Mariners in 2020. I thought it was
What?
way earlier than that.
See, I still, even when I'm wrong, I'm still right.
This
I
is
know
like
my
COVID
shit.
season, bro. No one remembers that shit.
Why
That's
does
true.
it seem so long ago? that
Whatever
he was on
win
the
you-
Mariners?
I mean, it
You'll
was
take it,
3
right?
years ago.
I guess.
I don't know. COVID warped our whole sense of time.
It really
That's
did.
what I'm saying.
I'm fucking 30.
So I kind of had a fun thing I wanted to talk to you guys about as well. I have an interesting baseball stat for you guys, and I'm convinced none of you guys will know this answer. Listeners at home, feel free to play along. There is one player in baseball history that stole at least one base in 10 straight seasons without getting caught stealing once.
Can I like narrow down the scope?
No,
of
we
that?
got to get hints here.
Yeah, we got hints. What?
Are they still active?
They are no longer active.
When did they stop being active?
I believe, just going off the top, I believe 2008 was their last season.
Oh, fuck, hell.
It is I will give a great hint though. It is a player all of you guys know, and as soon as I say it, you'll say holy shit. So again, 10 years, 10 straight seasons, at least one stolen base, never got caught stealing once during that 10-year span. No other player in history has done this. If you guys want hints, and feel free at home, listeners, get a pen and a pencil, start writing some stuff down, see what you guys
We've
say.
all seen him.
It's got to be a guy who didn't steal many bases. Like,
Yeah.
A couple of those years, he stole one successfully.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
unexpected. There's probably
Yeah.
no throw on most of these
Right,
stolen
yeah.
bases.
Those are great ideas. You guys are on
Okay.
the right track.
So he's a slow guy who
Yeah.
sneakily steals bases. And his last year was around 2008, you said?
I believe so, yes.
We need to narrow down hints here. So
We've all seen him play.
do we
Yes.
ask how many home runs he hit or something like that to see what kind of, if he's a big bomber, then we can narrow it down that way?
I would be surprised if he had more than 2 home runs in his
His
career.
whole career.
His whole career.
Oh fuck.
Oh, man. Is this guy a pinch runner? No. He's who is this
Slow guy.
Was he a Mariner?
He was not.
Oh,
Okay.
well.
But we all know who he is.
100%.
And he has less than 2 home runs in his career, you said?
Correct.
What? Who was a guy who played that long who hits like no home runs at all?
He had a 23-year long career.
Oh my God.
Gary DiSarcina.
No.
Like, I don't know. How can you narrow this down for us, Patrick? I think
You guys
gotten
can
a lot
brainstorm.
of
You can,
hints.
you can ask me questions.
I also did not watch a lot of baseball when I was like in 3rd grade. Like,
This is a player Owen would love.
oh shit. AL or NO?
National League.
I was going to ask, is he a pitcher? But then he wouldn't be from the National League, right?
He 100% would be.
Oh, okay. No, I had it backwards.
Yes.
So we're thinking of a pitcher.
Yes. There you go. See, there
Now
you go.
that
Now you're
we're-
working somewhere.
now we're in the National League. It makes sense. A
Right.
Hall of Famer who steals bases is a pitcher. Wow.
No, you guys got a big
So
one
it's a
there. It's a
starting
pitcher,
pitcher.
so that's
Not a Mariner.
not.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I have a decent guess, actually.
Go for it.
No, actually, it's not the, it's not the National League, so I cannot
No, it is
guess
the National
this.
League.
No, I'm saying
Oh.
my
Oh,
guess.
your guess wasn't.
I was
National
like,
League.
They were in the National League their whole career.
Yes.
ooh,
Fuck.
guys,
I was thinking like Bartolo Colon.
Dontrell Willis.
No, that's a good guess though.
Ooh.
You guys are like getting on the right track. But also, remember this 23-year career.
All right.
Long time. A long time specifically with one team.
I'm trying to think of fucking people that have pitched and retired in 2008.
That's what I'm
That's
thinking.
like
too.
I just
Well, just think of like old-timey pitchers, or
I
not
don't
even
know.
old-timey.
fucking Greg Maddux.
Boom.
Holy shit.
Owen got it.
He wanted that hit is like I would like him. The Braves.
The Braves.
Yeah.
Greg Maddux.
That's wild.
I couldn't remember when he fucking retired.
Yeah, you guys were like focused on the wrong things instead of just like naming like dope pitchers.
Oh, and then Greg Maddox's counterpart was John Smoltz.
Yeah. Greg Maddux had 10 straight seasons of stealing at least one base. And some years he stole multiple during that time span, but it was a lot of like 1 and 3 stolen bases without getting caught stealing.
How many Gold Gloves did he win during that span?
Oh shit, I don't know that one, but he was notorious for
Is it
like
more than 5.
I think it's like 9.
Dude,
Oh,
he,
for real?
he
I think he
won
has-
the Gold Glove more than any pitcher ever. He has like any other pitcher that was playing in the National League. Good luck getting the Gold Glove from Greg Maddux. It
Greg
was
Maddox
crazy.
would finish games in like fucking 2 hours. That's crazy.
that was before they made all the rules.
He was so fucking
Yeah.
efficient. He would like 2 hours and like 80 pitches.
That's why they call the Maddox a complete game shutout
complete
under
game
100 pitches.
Yep.
So
He was
that's
a
faster
he
than
was,
two.
He was a different kind of guy.
Also, Greg Maddux, 23-year career, 18 Gold Gloves.
Yeah, I was way off with
That's
my
insane.
guess.
So during that stretch of stolen bases, he probably won 10 out of 10 of those.
Yeah.
I could say that was his peak.
So, anyways, that was just a little fun game I had for you guys.
Dude, that stressed me out. I didn't like that game
I
at
know
all.
that was hella stressful.
Just throwing it on us. It's stressful.
So, Mariners season is right around the corner. We have one more episode of spring training, and then the regular season starts. I know opening day, Owen and I will be there.
Yeah.
yeah.
Opening
It's
day.
like my like 7th year in a row. It's your whole life.
I have never missed an opening day in my entire life. Since I was in my mom's tummy, and from being 1 year old to now, this will be technically my 31st opening day because I went to my first opening day before I was even 1 year old.
Keep that streak going, Patrick.
I will go my whole entire life without ever missing a Mariners opening day.
There's an asterisk on one of those,
Unbreakable.
I mean, it still counts.
though.
There-
It totally still counts.
There is an asterisk, and just by a bit of serendipity, one of the craziest lucky moments of my life, I moved to Michigan for a short time, and in that time, the Mariners to start their season, they started the season on the road, and they played the Chicago White Sox, and so I drove from Michigan to Chicago and saw the Mariners opening day at the White Sox Guaranteed Rate Stadium. Beautiful stadium, worst stadium name in baseball, Guaranteed Rate Field. But in doing so, I have never missed a Mariners opening day in my entire life, and we're keeping the streak going this year.
Anything for the
insane.
streak.
Yep. Owen and I will be there for my 31st consecutive opening day. Super excited. But yeah, the season is right around the corner. Next episode, we'll bring a lot of hot takes and predictions, what we expect from our players throughout, who's going to win what awards, what numbers people are going to put up. We're really excited. Thank you guys all for listening to us, and can't wait to talk to you guys next week about the upcoming season. Make sure to like, follow us, share, Instagram, Spotify, Facebook. You all know the drill. YouTube. Yeah. Also, want to give a big shout out to my mom, one of my biggest supporters. I love her so much, and she's amazing. Just wanted to throw that out there. Hope you're listening, Mom.
Love
I
you,
know
Mom.
you are.
Love you, Mom.
We all love our
Chris.
moms. This is a mom lover pod. So anyways, thank you guys so much. Hope you enjoyed the episode, and we'll talk to you next week. We love you all, and go
Mariners!